where disturbance truly begins. Hold this point steady as we begin. Nothing that happens to you carries disturbance on its own. Events arrive without judgment. They have no opinion about you, no intention to harm or support you. They simply occur. What unsettles you is not the event, but the meaning you assign to it. This distinction is not comforting. It removes every convenient excuse. If disturbance comes from judgment, then responsibility cannot be shifted to circumstances, to other people, or to fate. It rests with you, precisely and entirely. You are accustomed to saying, "This situation made me angry," or "That comment ruined my calm." But notice the structure of that thought. It quietly claims that your inner state belongs to something outside your authority. Stoicism refuses this claim. Not because it is optimistic, but because it is accurate. An impression appears. It is neutral. Then a judgment follows. That judgment is yours. The moment you agree with it, disturbance begins. Not earlier. Not later. At that point. This is not a call to suppress emotion or deny difficulty. It is a call to clarity. To see where your freedom actually is, instead of where you wish it were. No one else can do this work for you. No system, no method, no protection will replace your own assent. Notice this carefully. What actually belongs to you? Everything that follows depends on one clear distinction. There is a sharp boundary in your life that you routinely ignore. On one side are things that belong to you completely. On the other side are things that never do, no matter how strongly you wish otherwise. Discipline begins by respecting this boundary. Disturbance begins by violating it. What belongs to you is limited, but sufficient. Your judgments belong to you. Your intentions belong to you. Your choices, your refusals, your assent or non-assent, these are yours without qualification. No one can take them unless you hand them over. What does not belong to you is far more extensive. Other people's behavior does not belong to you. Outcomes do not belong to you. Reputation, timing, recognition, delays, accidents, praise, blame, none of these are under your authority. Treating them as if they were is the most common form of self-sabotage. The mistake is subtle. You tell yourself you are being responsible when you try to control outcomes. You call it care, preparation, or effort. But notice the internal cost. The more you demand that external things obey you, the more fragile your peace becomes. Every deviation feels like an offense. Every obstacle feels personal. Consider a simple example. You prepare carefully for a meeting. You speak clearly. Someone misunderstands you or dismisses your point. The preparation was yours. The clarity was yours. Their reception was not. Yet the disturbance appears when you silently claim ownership over their response. You treat their misunderstanding as evidence of failure, rather than as a neutral event outside your command. Or consider waiting. You plan your day. A delay appears. Traffic slows. A system fails. The delay itself is not harmful. The judgment that says, "This should not be happening to me," is where irritation enters. You have tried to control time itself. Time does not belong to you. This confusion drains energy. You spend effort where effort has no effect. You rehearse arguments for outcomes that never arrive. You feel responsible for other people's moods. You take credit for success and blame for failure as if the universe were a personal performance review. None of this produces discipline. It produces tension. Stoicism does not ask you to withdraw from life. It asks you to place effort where effort is rational. When you focus on what belongs to you, your effort becomes precise. When you abandon what does not, you are not passive, you are accurate. Notice how often language reveals the error. I need them to understand. I have to make this work. I can't be calm unless this changes. Each sentence quietly hands your inner state to something external. Each one is an abdication disguised as responsibility. Reclaiming authority begins with refusal. Refusal to assign ownership where it does not exist. Refusal to negotiate with outcomes. Refusal to treat preferences as requirements. This is not indifference. It is discipline. When you respect this boundary, frustration loses its fuel. You still act. You still prepare. You still speak and decide and engage. But you do so without demanding guarantees. You do not confuse effort with control. This distinction is not optional. Every moment of disturbance can be traced back to it. Either you are focused on what belongs to you, or you are trying to manage what never will. This explains where effort is misplaced, but not yet how disturbance takes hold. The moment you agree. Now we look at what actually creates disturbance. The distinction between what belongs to you and what does not is necessary, but it is not sufficient. You can understand it intellectually and still lose your balance daily. That is because disturbance does not arise at the level of theory. It arises at a single, repeatable moment inside the mind. An impression appears. This happens automatically. A sound, a delay, a message, a facial expression, a memory. You do not choose these. They arrive without asking. Stoicism does not blame you for impressions. It never has. The error begins when the impression is treated as a verdict. Between impression and disturbance, there is an intermediate step that most people never notice. Judgment. And after judgment, there is assent. Agreement. The quiet internal yes that says, this is bad. This is unfair. This should not be happening, or this means something about me. Impressions arrive uninvited. Assent does not. This is the point of freedom. Not before the impression. Not after the reaction. Exactly here. The moment you decide whether to agree with what the mind proposes. Consider criticism. Someone speaks sharply to you. The impression is immediate, sound waves, tone, words. Then a thought appears, I am being disrespected. That thought feels inseparable from the event, but it is not. It is an interpretation. If you assent to it, anger follows. If you withhold assent, the words remain just words. Or consider delay. You are waiting. Time passes. The impression is simple, nothing is happening yet. Then the judgment appears, this is a waste, or I am being blocked. Once you agree, impatience takes over. The body tightens. The mind accelerates. Yet nothing new has occurred externally. Only assent has been given. Notice the sequence carefully. Event. Impression. Judgment. Assent. Disturbance. Most people believe the sequence is shorter. They believe events cause emotions directly. This belief removes responsibility and makes discipline impossible. If anger simply happens, there is nothing to train. Stoicism insists on accuracy instead. There is always a moment of consent, even if it is brief and unexamined. This does not mean you can prevent feelings from arising. A surge of irritation, sadness, or fear can appear before you have time to speak. Stoicism does not deny this. What it denies is that these feelings force agreement. Feeling is not the same as assent. Sensation is not commitment. The work is to slow down just enough to see the offer being made. The mind says, this is unbearable. You are not required to sign. The mind says, this matters more than anything else. You are allowed to pause. One breath is often enough. This pause is not dramatic. It does not look like wisdom. From the outside, nothing changes. From the inside, everything does. You shift from reaction to choice. From being carried to standing still. Without this pause, discipline collapses into suppression. You try to overpower reactions after they have already taken control. With the pause, discipline becomes precise. You work at the source, not the aftermath. This is why Stoicism places freedom at the level of assent. Not in outcomes. Not in comfort. In agreement. Understanding this does not create discipline. Insight alone does not change behavior. What practice actually means. This is where most people misunderstand discipline. Discipline is commonly imagined as force, as pressure applied against resistance, as endurance, grit, or the ability to tolerate discomfort through sheer will. This misunderstanding leads people to exhaust themselves while making little progress. They fight reactions instead of training the source of reactions. Stoic discipline is not force. It is training. Training assumes repetition. It assumes gradual improvement. It assumes that the mind, like the body, adapts to what it repeatedly practices. No one expects strength from lifting a weight once. Yet many expect composure from insight alone. This expectation quietly undermines effort. The object of Stoic training is not emotion. It is attention. Specifically, attention at the moment of assent. You are not training yourself to feel nothing. That goal is neither possible nor desirable. Impressions will continue to arise. Feelings will continue to register in the body. What changes through discipline is not the presence of impressions, but your relationship to them. Force says, do not feel this. Training says, notice this clearly. Force waits until emotion is already in control, then tries to suppress it. Training works earlier. It works at the point where impressions are evaluated. This is why Stoic practice often appears subtle, even unimpressive. There is no visible struggle. The work happens before the reaction becomes visible. Consider how habits form. If you repeatedly assent to the judgment, this is intolerable, your mind learns to escalate quickly. It becomes efficient at disturbance. If you repeatedly withhold assent, the mind learns a different pattern. It slows. It checks. It waits. Over time, this becomes the default. This is not achieved through intensity. It is achieved through consistency. Discipline fails when it is treated as punishment. When mistakes are met with self-criticism. When the absence of immediate results is taken as proof of failure. These responses add a second layer of unexamined judgment. You are not only reacting to events, but also to your own reactions. Training does not require harshness. It requires honesty. When you notice that you assented too quickly, the correct response is not guilt. Guilt is just another judgment claiming that something bad has occurred. The correct response is recognition. I agreed too fast. That is all. This recognition is already progress. Training also does not wait for high-stakes moments. If you only attempt discipline during serious conflict or pressure, you will fail. You are trying to lift too much weight without preparation. Stoic practice begins in minor irritations, small delays, trivial preferences. These are not distractions from training. They are the training. Notice how often you rehearse interpretations automatically. This is inconvenient. This is disrespectful. This should not be happening. Each repetition strengthens the habit. Training interrupts this repetition. Not with denial, but with suspension. Suspension is an active state. You are not ignoring the impression. You are holding it without agreeing. This requires effort, but it is a different kind of effort than force. It is lighter, more precise, more sustainable. Over time, this practice changes the internal landscape. Not by eliminating impressions, but by reducing their authority. They still speak, but they no longer command immediate obedience. This is what Stoics mean by inner order. Training before pressure is essential. If you only think about assent when you are already overwhelmed, you are late. Discipline is built when nothing dramatic is happening. It reveals itself when something does. This distinction matters. Without it, discipline becomes a performance. With it, discipline becomes reliable. Training remains abstract unless it appears in daily life. Practicing calm in ordinary moments. This practice is proven in ordinary moments. Stoic discipline does not wait for crises. It is not reserved for conflict, loss, or confrontation. It lives in what appears insignificant. In the moments you usually dismiss as too small to matter. That is precisely where training either happens or does not. There are 3 practices that anchor this discipline in daily life. They are simple. They are not dramatic. And they work only if applied without ceremony. The first is anticipating impressions without anxiety. Each day will present inconvenience, delay, misunderstanding, discomfort. This is not pessimism. It is accuracy. When you expect the day to obey your preferences, every deviation feels like an injustice. When you expect resistance as normal, it loses its power to surprise. This anticipation is not rehearsal of suffering. It is calibration. You quietly remind yourself that impressions will arrive. That people will act according to their own judgments. That systems will fail. You do this without tension. Without emotional loading. Just as a sailor expects wind without resenting it. When an impression arrives that you anticipated, it feels familiar. Familiar impressions demand less assent. This is how preparation reduces disturbance without eliminating events. The second practice is pausing before assent. This pause does not require philosophy in the moment. It does not require language. One breath is enough. The purpose is not to calm yourself. Calm is not the target. The purpose is to create space between impression and agreement. An impression appears. The body reacts. Thoughts rush forward. Instead of following them immediately, you pause. You do nothing else. You do not argue. You do not correct. You simply refrain from agreeing. In this pause, the impression weakens. Not because it disappears, but because it has not been authorized. You may still choose to act. You may still respond firmly or decisively. But you are no longer acting under compulsion. This pause is the smallest unit of freedom. The third practice is the evening review, without guilt or praise. At the end of the day, you look back briefly. Not to judge yourself. Not to celebrate yourself. Just to observe. Where did you assent too quickly? Where did you pause effectively? Where did you confuse preference with requirement? Guilt has no place here. Guilt is itself an unexamined judgment claiming that something bad has occurred and must be punished. Praise is also unnecessary. Praise creates attachment to performance. Both distort clarity. The review is factual. Here I reacted. Here I paused. Here I improved. That is all. The purpose is not self-esteem. It is pattern recognition. Through this review, the mind learns. Quietly. Without force. Without pressure. These practices are not separate from life. They are life, observed correctly. You are not adding tasks. You are refining attention. Expect inconvenience accurately. Pause briefly. Review honestly. When these actions repeat, something stabilizes. Not externally. Internally. You become less dependent on circumstances for equilibrium. Less reactive. More deliberate. This is not withdrawal. It is engagement without surrender. When this practice becomes stable, a different kind of freedom appears. What remains under your command? Freedom is often misunderstood. It is commonly imagined as ease, as comfort, as a life arranged to avoid friction. This image collapses quickly under pressure. Comfort depends on conditions you do not control. When conditions shift, comfort disappears. If freedom is built on comfort, it is fragile by design. Stoic freedom is different. It does not promise relief from difficulty. It promises authority within difficulty. What remains under your command is not the shape of events, but the shape of your response. Not what happens next, but whether you agree that what happens next has the right to govern you. This distinction is not poetic. It is operational. Life does not become easier through this practice. In some ways, it becomes more demanding. You no longer explain your reactions by pointing outward. You no longer say, anyone would feel this way, and end the inquiry there. You return responsibility inward, where it belongs. This return is not self-blame. It is self-command. Consider what cannot be taken from you. Your capacity to pause cannot be removed. Your ability to examine a judgment cannot be confiscated. Your choice to assent or withhold assent cannot be overridden by force, delay, insult, or loss. These remain intact unless you abandon them. This is why Stoics speak of inner sovereignty. Sovereignty does not mean comfort. It means jurisdiction. You govern a specific territory. That territory is small, but absolute. When you attempt to govern more than this, you lose even what you had. Freedom is not doing what you want. Desire is unstable. It shifts with mood and impression. Freedom is not getting what you want. Outcomes are unreliable. Freedom is wanting only what depends on you. This does not make you passive. It makes you precise. You still pursue goals. You still act with intention. You still prefer certain outcomes over others. The difference is that your peace is no longer hostage to results. You act fully, then release ownership of what follows. This release is not resignation. It is clarity about where authority ends. Many people experience brief moments of this freedom and mistake them for achievements. They say, "I reached it," or "I had it once." This language reveals the misunderstanding. Inner freedom is not reached. It is maintained. Each day presents new impressions. Each day invites new judgments. Each day requires renewed attention. There is no final state where discipline becomes unnecessary. The practice continues because life continues. This is not discouraging. It is stabilizing. You are not chasing an outcome. You are maintaining a function. Nothing outside you must change for this to begin. Conditions do not need to improve. Other people do not need to behave differently. You do not need permission. The work is already available. This brings us to the final responsibility. Keeping what is yours. This ends where responsibility begins. Nothing in this practice requires escalation. Nothing dramatic must happen for it to work. The principle is simple and demanding. Disturbance begins with judgment, and judgment is yours to examine. You are not asked to deny difficulty. You are not asked to become indifferent to life. You are asked to stop surrendering authority at the moment it matters most. At the moment you agree. Responsibility cannot be outsourced. Not to circumstances. Not to other people. Not to your past, your temperament, or your intentions. Each impression still arrives. Each day still presents friction. But agreement remains optional, moment by moment. You will not do this perfectly. Expect that. Expect missed pauses. Expect quick assent. These are not failures. They are data. The mistake is not reacting. The mistake is reacting and then refusing to learn from it. There is no final correction. There is only return. Return to what belongs to you. Return to the pause. Return to examining judgment before agreeing to it. This is not about achieving calm as a permanent state. Calm comes and goes. This is about maintaining sovereignty when calm is absent. About choosing deliberately even when impressions press hard. You do not need better conditions. You do not need fewer problems. You do not need control over outcomes. You need clarity about where your authority actually is. The work is simple. It is not easy. And it is yours. Practice this today in something small.